Hello, and thank you so much for listening to The Act of Courage, a global health podcast series brought to you by Capracare Inc. Capracare is a global health nonprofit that's bringing health care to the people of Haiti. I'm Jo Ann. I am the International Service Chair of the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club located in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm here with Jean-Pierre Louis, my co-host, as well as the founder and executive director of Capracare. During this third season, Jean and I will be talking with one another and others in the know about how Capracare, with Rotary's help, has brought cervical cancer screenings to the women of southern Haiti, saving lives. We'll talk about the journey. We'll talk about where we hope to go. We'll talk about where we are now. And we are thrilled that you're on the journey with us. Thank you. Welcome. This is episode 4 of season 3 of An Act of Courage. We, Jean and I, Jean-Pierre Louis, my co-host, and we are delighted that you are here. And we hope that you've been with us for the first 3 episodes. We have called this episode Hope, Despair, and lots of resourcefulness. You know, over the first 3 episodes, we talked about how the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club and Capracare, how our story began. We talked about the screening method that Capracare uses to screen women in Haiti, in southern Haiti, for cervical cancer. And we talked about some of the challenges from unexpected places that Capracare and the Rotary Club ran into trying to get this project off the ground. I know I said the last time that sometimes it simply is good to look back and remember what one has overcome to keep on going. And so today, Jean and I are going to talk with our guests about hope and just a little bit of despair and the resourcefulness that it really does take, but how it helps to keep us keeping on. To help us tell that story, we have with us today Dr. Steve Papillon. Dr. Papillon was the doctor at Capracare who was there at the beginning of this saga and actually was the project manager for the first global grant that we used to fund the beginning of this project. And we have back with us our in-resident expert on public health, Dr. Muriel Harris. Dr. Papillon and Muriel, we're delighted you're here.
Thank you, Joanne. Good to be here.
Okay, so you're going to be the stars. Actually, the 4 of us are the stars because we're all going to remember the times that we're talking about. Let's set the stage, though. It is July of 2017. And the news is actually good. We know that shipping container is going to make its way out of customs. And in fact, on Friday, I think it would have been Friday, July 27th, count the days, but it was on the Friday before we were to show up on Tuesday morning. So we have pictures of the shipping container being unloaded in Fonfrede. And then we actually have a picture of it being unloaded, sitting in its permanent spot with a big cow sitting in front of it, guarding it, I guess. And so that huge hurdle has been jumped. Dr. Papillon, I think you and Dr. J.B. Hale, our Prospect Goshen OBGYN who was going to train you and your nurse, during the month of July, you all talked several times over the phone in order to get a sense, for JB to get a sense of what your training needed to look like. And during one of those calls, you raised this nagging issue related to the availability of nitrogen in Haiti. You remember that? Can you tell us about what that issue was and how you became a hero and solved it?
Hello, everyone. So I'm not taking all the credit that I've been a hero to do it because all of us, we all the staff had to put hands together to do it. When I've been talking back and forth with JB, that's how we call Dr. Bells at that time. So it was talking about not first about the nitrogen, but about the carbon dioxide. That would a little bit difficult in Haiti to find. And so in the container he shipped, he said he shipped a thing, but I know that will arrive the part. But when we get in the container to look for the thing, it was a tiny one. And so a tiny one with amount of education and women we had to test and probably add some cryotherapy to do with that. I said that won't be enough too. So I have to go to the Dominican Republic with one of my doctor friend to use his pickup to go there and to find some carbon dioxide. So when we come back with it in Haiti, that by the time you guys the team was already on the ground, now we meet with J Dr. Bale. So when we trying to connect the cryogen with it, they want a part that was missing that we can fit it. So we have to go to a local shop to make the piece for us to adjust the cryogen in the stick. That's why I think you get the picture for GP and JB when they standing in front of the stick. They said those sticks are huge. That how when I think they took that picture, that was a little funny and exciting at the same time.
Well, and I'll make a point to make sure that we you have our listening audience as an opportunity to see. We've got some really good pictures that are related to this episode. For us in Louisville, we are relieved to hear that Dr. Papillon, you have a source in the Dominican Republic that can get you the nitrogen tanks you think that we need, uh, knowing that you think you're going to have them by Wednesday morning, that we're showing up Tuesday morning, you'll have them by Wednesday, and all of this is going to work. In the meantime, actually, the Prospect Goshen contingent, we are making our way to Haiti. We leave Monday morning from Atlanta. We arrive in Port-au-Prince Monday and make our way to actually Lacaille, which is where we stayed during this adventure. We got in late, had dinner, and got up the next morning to make our way to Fonfrede. Dr. Papillon, you were our chauffeur. Do you remember? There was a pickup made for 5 people where 6 of us got in it every day, going and coming. And we had to have a truck. We had to have a pickup truck. We're blessed that we did. But one of the funnier moments morning, I mean, other than Muriel, I mean, JB, Stacy, who was on our first episode, and me, had never been there before. Muriel, you had, but the other 3 of us had never been to Haiti. So Dr. Papillon, we get loaded in the pickup. You make a turn off the main road to head to Fonfrede. Muriel, you remember what JB Hale said?
He asked whether it was a road or not because it was all gravel paved.
He said,
I don't want where we're going.
that was it. Steve, you know where we're going? Is this a road? And it did. I think Fonfrede said like 6 miles from Lakai, and what did it take? Like 35 minutes to go those 6 miles. But anyway, but we make it to the facility, the capracare facility in Fonfrede, and head over immediately to the shipping container, which is like a mile away. Is that right, John? I mean, it was like a mile away.
Yeah, it's not quite a whole mile, but if you round it up, call it a mile, right?
And so we head over there, and we do take the necessary posed pictures in front of the container while it's closed, and then we open it up, and holy cow, that thing is full. It is packed full, not only of stuff that we needed that week to do the training, but a whole bunch of other stuff. So Muriel, you and Dr. Papillon get in that unbelievably hot shipping container, and you direct traffic. You direct traffic, trying to figure out what we needed and what we didn't. Do you remember? Do you remember doing that? I'm going to let you unmute yourself so you can tell me yes.
Yes, remember that. And remember that
Go ahead.
I remember sorry. Remember we had the manifest, so we had to go through the numbers and go, and unfortunately the box we needed was all the way back in the container. So we have to carry out all bush thing to go outside and go all the way back. And after I remember at that time I couldn't keep my shirt on because I was too sweaty and it was too hot inside.
And that's when you men don't really understand how lucky you are. Because Muriel and I did not take our shirts off. And that was probably, clearly was my introduction. And I know JB and Stacey's introduction to what it really is like to be in 95-degree weather and 90% humidity with no air conditioning. But the unloading of that van also had some really special moments, because I do remember looking at each other, and that shipping container is full. And for the 7 of us that were there, okay, we could do this all day. And Jean, you made one call. I have no idea who you called, but you made one call, and almost 10 strapping young men showed up, and they just simply carried those boxes that Muriel and Dr. Papillon pointed to, and we made several trips back and forth to the clinic.
Yeah, well, you know what it is. Anytime there's an opportunity for folks in the community to get their hands and be involved in something that's brand new, they're always excited. And whenever there's something brand new happening, it's also an opportunity for them to get some kind of tip, right? Some kind of financial. So that's gonna bring them out, right? Like, that's gonna bring them out because they see work, but they see fun, and it's something brand new that they can be part of. So once I made the call, it was like, I had to say, don't bring more than X number of people, because otherwise they'll hear what's going on and everybody wants to be a part of. So yeah, it was really truly an amazing day. And the funny part is, right, we're looking for our equipment, a 40 feet container, right? And lo and behold, the stuff that we're looking for, where else would it be? In the back of it.
I remember that, Dr. Pep. I remember you, Dr. Papillon, with that manifest, looking for those numbers. And keep in mind, I mean, it is a 40-foot van. That shipping container is huge.
Yeah.
You know, and if we had known better in April when they stocked that thing, I guess, but they stocked that thing based on how it would load.
Yeah.
And the boxes load the best. They load the best, they load the easiest, and they went to the back. And interestingly enough, all the other stuff that you needed for the facility or the other stuff that we had brought along, it was out front. But you know, so there are lots of trips back and forth. During one of those trips, Dr. Papillon, you and JB and Muriel and I and Stacy, we went back to the facility because we had to pick out what room to use in the facility for the exam room. And I think there were three possibilities, but you all caucused, Jean, you and JP and you, Dr. Papillon, caucused in part to try and figure out what room would have the best ventilation, because you know that no air conditioning problem. I mean, you know, the way you keep rooms cool is keep the windows and doors open. But anyhow, you picked a room. You picked a room. Those who weren't carrying supplies and exam tables in, and I know this, Muriel, you and Stacy and I were involved here. We cleared out that room. We cleared out that room and we looked at it. And Muriel, you thought maybe we should paint it. You remember that? You did. You get the credit.
Yeah.
You decided
I
we should.
just, it needed a facelift. Definitely needed a facelift. So, and then but John got the paint, and he got the painter, and they got to it.
It was like we turned our backs, and there was this delightful older gentleman painting the room yellow, painting the, you know, and we're worried. We're sort of in the weeds. We're conscious when I talk about the weeds. We're just conscious of the fact that we're here for a week. We're here for a week, and we weren't going to be able to really begin all of the training until Wednesday because the nitrogen wasn't going to come in. And now we're painting a room. I mean, you know, we're here for a week, you know, and it just all worked. It all worked.
It's really multitask and team collaboration at its finest, right? Because many parts were moving, and we knew we had limited amount of time. So it wasn't a very courageous week. All of us here really are the heroes. I think, you know, when we tell the story, we make it seem more seamless. But when you truly sit down and you think about it, we had to jump a lot of hurdles. And for me, my thing is, you know, when you're doing work in Haiti, is to always expect the unexpected. You know, you really can't go by a particular timeline, right? Because the minute you say, yeah, we'll get this done by Wednesday, something will come up. But all of us know we really had limited amount of time to implement this and then pass it off to the team and make it go. But everyone didn't see all the barriers and challenges. They just saw, okay, let's get it done. And we went for it.
Well, you know, and when I tell this story to other organizations, at the end of the day, you can just see. I always number one talk to groups who say to me, "Why didn't you all just stop?" There were so many times before we ever got to Fonfrede. Why didn't you stop? And then, candidly, the first thing that went wrong was the fact that we had to wait until Wednesday in order to get the nitrogen tank. And little did we know that that was the easiest problem to solve. And why we just didn't stop. And I always tell them, well, I'm a woman of faith. And I believe that if we were supposed to stop, God would have stopped us. And then truly every day that week worried that God really was trying to stop us, and we just refused to listen. But so we do go home. We go home Tuesday. We go back to the hotel Tuesday night, which blessedly every 2 hours, it did have air conditioning run on generators. But that meant for every 2 hours, we would have air conditioning. We had running water there, cold. There was no hot water, but we had cold water, and we were all really hot. So who really cared? We became really cognizant Tuesday night of how important it was to drink water because we just weren't used to it. I mean, this was we weren't used to this. But so we go back Tuesday. Wednesday morning, we start bright and early. Dr. Papillon, you pick us up. There we go. We're very excited because we've got women coming. We have 5 women who had volunteered to be screened during the training. You want to talk about brave women? You know, the part of the training they're being screened. And the nitrogen tanks show up, and we're thrilled. And you're right, Dr. Papillon. That's when we discovered that the coupling that we brought that would fit that little nitrogen tank didn't fit the big ones. And again, how this played out, if somebody remembers this better than I do, but somebody raised their hand and said, well, I think there's a guy in Lakai who can help us. Went and checked it out, and the answer was yes, but he wouldn't be able to have it for us until Thursday, and he would need to charge $200. And I remember, Jean, you looking at me and going, oh, it's gonna be $200. And all I said was, deal. We can't go anywhere. We can't go anywhere without this. And so Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, Dr. Papillon, when your training started in earnest. I'm not sure. I don't know if you remember. I know JB did some stuff before that while Muriel and Sheila and a bunch of Stacy and a bunch of us are trying to get that clinic, get the room set up. JB's doing some initial training with you, but I think the training began in earnest on Wednesday. You remember what you were thinking while all this is going on?
For the time, I didn't really have time to think because we're thinking about to do the training to give the service that we have the women here to come to get. That's all we are on everyone's mind. Even Dr. JB and us gave me some paper that I'm trying to read them to get know to what I will face during the training. So we keep moving around, trying to fix everything, trying to see what we have to do to get the room fixed, get to the equipment prepared.
Capracare has a great dream to screen 25,000 women for cervical cancer. Every screening has the potential to save a woman's life. Your fingerprints, too, can be a part of this success story in one of 2 ways. First, you can take your support to the next level and become an active part of our mission by becoming a monthly donor. Join Changemakers, our monthly giving club, today. Visit capracare.org/changemakers to set up your donation. It's quick and impactful. The second way is you can contribute specifically to the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club's Foundation to help fund the next cervical cancer global grant. This next grant, through the magic of Rotary's matching programs, will provide funding to screen more Haitian women in more locations. Log on to the Rotary Club of Prospect Goshen's website. It's www.pgrotary.net to read more about how Rotary is working with Capracare and other partners to rein in cervical cancer in Haiti. From there, you can contribute directly to the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club Foundation to help fund the next cervical cancer global grant. Be a part of saving lives. It will change your life.
That's when you said, I remember this was Jean Denis who was here and he said that I know the guy who can help us. But when we went to Lekai, the guy said, yeah, I can do it for $200, but not at each shop. He had to send off to Camperant. But I don't know if you remember that. We have to go to Camperant. I don't know who, there was someone in the car who had some trouble because it was maybe like 10 miles away, but it was a good one. It's not the Pavel ground, but
That's
we
right.
went there. We went there and I had someone get a little sick because I was driving too fast, he said. Remember that?
No,
That
Camper does have the better roads, and
yeah.
the guy had to go to his own shop to actually fix that. So yeah, it was a lot of hands on deck, a lot of hands on deck. And those tanks are so big that it requires multiple persons to lift them up. That's they are gigantic.
Did you all take the tanks with you? I'm guessing you did, in order to make sure he could figure out what kind of coupling he needed.
Well, we took one of them.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't know that you went to Camp Perin. What I do remember about that Wednesday is we did get the clinic. We got the clinic outfitted about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When we found out that it would be the next day before the coupling would be ready, we sent the women home and asked them to come back on Thursday. Muriel, you're doing a bunch of work with the staff at capracare related to record keeping and data management. Why did we need all that stuff?
Absolutely, because part of the grant requires that we monitor the implementation of the program. So we were collecting data on the individuals who participated. So women who were screened, women who received education, women who actually had a procedure, and we wanted to make sure that all the data monitoring mechanisms were set up. But in addition to that, we're also compiling materials that we had brought, health education materials that would be taken out to and used during the various programs, the education programs. So yeah, I was sort of involved in both levels. But yeah, the monitoring part of it was really important for the grant. So we made sure that we would collect the data for it.
And so Dr. Papillon, you and your nurse and JB you're being trained. The rest of us are working for Muriel, doing what Muriel tells us to do to help compile. Well, you were a good boss, Muriel, but doing what we needed to do to help make sure the folks from capracare knew what we needed in the way of data. But boy, they did. The capracare folks have kept excellent records from the beginning of time. But we made our way back Wednesday night. We needed to stop a little early because all of us, and as well as a couple of the staff from capracare, went to the Rotary Club meeting, the Lakai Rotary Club meeting on Wednesday night, where Dr. Papillon, you had met those people over and over and over again in your many trials trying to get what we needed to get the grant going. But it was nice for us to get to meet the folks that we had been engaged with over really quite a long time. I'm not sure how many of the club knew that they were involved in this, but because they didn't seem to know who we were. But those that were involved, it was very kind. It was very fun. It was very fun to see, to go to a Rotary meeting in another country. So that was cool. And we were all excited about Thursday because we were going to start seeing women. The coupling was going to fit and life was going to be good. And we head over on Thursday with that frame of mind. And so the coupling shows up. The women show up. The women show up at 9 o'clock in the morning. The coupling shows up in the morning. I'm not sure what time, but it shows up in the morning. And it worked. It connected to the nitrogen gun and to the cryo gun. We needed the nitrogen in order for the cryo gun to work. If there were any lesions present, that's how we would freeze those lesions or remove them, through the use of the cryo gun. And so we were very excited. We were ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. Just to remind you, that's two part of those things we had. The first one we got it was the carbon dioxide. That's and when the coupling arrived, we couldn't dig it, but the pressure in those tank was too high for that type again. That's why when JB trying to see if it's work, that's why that blows up. I remember one of you guys, I don't remember who that were really, but Doc, not when he heard the blow. I don't know if you guys, it was you.
I,
Put
yeah,
Daddy right there.
I think it scared the bejeebers out of all of us. I was glad the friggin' building was still standing. I guess the simple story is it blew out all the plastic tubing. It blew,
Yeah.
blew out all of the plastic.
And that was the only one that we had.
So it was, and there was this heroic effort to use duct tape
to
try
try to fix it.
and put it back together. And after a couple of hours, decided, yeah, that isn't going to work. And so the decision was made, and I don't know, Dr. Papillon, it was made by you, it was made by you, Jean, by JB, but that we would go ahead and screen the women, that we could at least do the exam and determine whether or not there were any lesions present. And if there were, then we would have to go back and have those women come back when we had a cryo gun that would work. But that basically is what we started to do. Sometime mid-afternoon, I think by 3 o'clock, around 3 o'clock, is when you all started screening women who had waited patiently since 9 o'clock, and then you screened the 5 women, and that was all done around 5. So when you're doing the math, I mean, we had women that waited 8 and 9 hours, and all they were grateful. All they were grateful that they had been screened. I don't remember that if any of them had lesions. They all went home happy. But you and JB walked out of that exam room and said, we got to do something to cool this room. That when that door was closed, I forget what word you used, Dr. Papillon, but it was excruciating.
I remember that read too, but it was very, very hot inside. So because we had to choose that room because it was a little give the little privacy, and it's not really in the front of the office when we get in. That was the best choice we can make, but it was really hot. If I guess I said I was frying, we were frying there, like we were in the oven, something like that. But I don't remember. But it was really hot.
I know JB used the phrase cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, it was disrespectful to ask the women to endure that, and you, he was worried about you and the nurse. So, okay, this is Thursday. So that's the problem for Friday. Now on Friday, I don't remember, I remember the women, we had 5 more women come, and you screened 5 more women, but in the midst of that day, Jean, you had folks come from Lakai to assess what might be done. I think the resolution on Thursday night was, is there any way we could put solar panels on that roof? And you had some, but not enough to run the air conditioner. You had the solar panels you had didn't work, and the generator wouldn't run it for long enough.
No,
And
we only had 2 solar panels, and the amount of energy needed to run all our run the AC and everything else was just was insufficient. So we had to beef up later with more panels.
And so Friday, somebody once again from Lakai shows up to assess what is going on. The rest of us make our way back to Lakai, and Saturday we come back, and you all see the last of the 5 women. Let me back up a minute. On Friday, so we know we need solar panels, and we're working that issue. But by Friday, the word is out that we've got wheelchairs and crutches, and what do you call those things? Scooters. That was part of in the Jean, when you were in Louisville earlier, Supplies Overseas had all of that stuff, and you picked out, I think, just about all that they had and put them on that shipping container, and the word was out, and people were coming, and you all needed to decide how to mete out, how to mete out what was available, because it never would be enough. You remember that?
No, I do. Folks came from everywhere, because you still had folks who were recovering from the 2010 earthquake, right? Missing limbs, who needed these wheelchairs, who needed these walkers. So once the word got out, and we even had people who were local. There was this girl locally in Fonfrede who was needed a wheelchair, right? She had this debilitating health issue that she could not walk. So she spent her entire life pretty much sitting on the ground. Her mom had to carry her everywhere that she had to go on her back. So when they found out that we had the wheelchairs, they were like the first one to immediately come to the facility and get one. And now, mind you, these wheelchairs is not for the roads in Haiti, right? But when you have someone who's basically crawling on the floor, the best thing for them was to have the wheelchair. And she came and she got it, and she put this, even the little girl, you should have seen, we saw the smile on their faces, right? But people should have seen the smile, the impact of that chair, how it was going to change their life. The mom was relieved that she wouldn't have to carry this girl, because the girl is growing, right? So as she's growing, she's getting older, she's having more weight. And for her too, to be crawling on her legs on the floor, on the dirt floor, at that was very sad to see. But when they got the wheelchair and she was pushing her out of the facility, their smiles on their face was priceless. Both the little girl and her mom. Until this day, they still have the wheelchair as well.
Well, my favorite memory of that day was the husband who was carrying his wife in, who had lost a part of both of her legs in the earthquake, and he carried her everywhere that they needed to go. And what I remember, and if I'm wrong about this, don't tell me, because I don't want to be wrong. This is what I remember. They came in and didn't actually ask to be given a wheelchair. They just wanted to know how they could use it from time to time, if they could use it. And
They wanted to borrow it.
Yeah, and don't
It's more
question that.
like that they wanted to rent it out.
They wanted to rent it out.
Yeah.
And in Haiti, there's no such thing as I rent, I borrow. So they were being very kind in that mannerism.
They were being very kind. And I remember at that time, you all were dealing with all of the people from the community, like in the front room. And Muriel, you and I and Stacy were in the back room, and I'm not sure what we were doing, something worthwhile, I'm sure. But we're in the back room, and I remember Jean, you coming and asking us if it would be okay if the wife came back to talk to us. So she wanted to see us. And we said, of course, and she came back. And through your translation, all she wanted to do, she wanted to say thank you, that we had changed her life forever. It was a good moment. It was a good moment. And
Absolutely. And I think that's the, the Haitian people in Haiti, their way of paying is always saying thanks. They really wish that they had, other ways of showing gratitude, and because they know how hard simple things are for them to access. So when they see folks like us who leave the comfort of our home in the United States to come to Haiti to help out, it means a lot to them.
And it was I know it was a good moment for Stacy and Muriel and JB and well, JB probably didn't see it because he's busy training Dr. Papillon and and your nurse. But you did screen. You screened 5 more women that day. They all waited longer than any of us would have patiently waited, but they did. And again, they were so grateful. And then the next day, Saturday morning was one of those days that it was one of those days where we sort of knew what to expect. We knew what equipment was going to work and what didn't. We can, you all continued to see the last of the 5 women. Jean, the folks from Lakai came in with their estimate for solar panels, $14,000. That's what I remember, and we basically said, okay, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. And you raised some of it, and we came back to Prospect Goshen. I think we raised 8,000 of it from the club and scraped money together. But anyhow, by September, I think the solar panels were in. I
Yes.
think they were in, and life was better on actually a lot of levels. I mean, you had a refrigerator, you had stuff that needed a reliable source of electricity that I don't normally think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, like, those are the things that we don't foresee, right? So we go in for one thing to do, which is set up to screen women, and then we end up having so many other impactful moments. I mean, look at it. We give out all of those wheelchairs, we give out all of those crutches, right? So there was none left. In fact, we even had a guy who came on a motorcycle from Campere with no limbs at all. Literally no legs at all. Like, I think they cut all the way to his maximum, for my lack of better word. And then to get there, to realize the energy that's also needed, right? Because we didn't factor that we would need that much energy as well. So then to have solar panel. Till this day, these things are still functioning. So a lot of things that we take for granted. So when we talk about being, like when we talk about this pack as being called an act of courage, or capracare's name stands for act of courage, so anything that you do in Haiti will require that. I think one thing that we don't always foresee is what are the other impact that will happen. Until this day, it's not just cervical cancer screening. We are making lifelong impact for folks. So a lot of us may take this thing for granted, but it's really, really, really very impactful. Very impactful.
Well, the truth of the matter is it was impactful for us too. On Saturday, the JB, you all are, Dr. Papillon, you are screening. Part of what you're doing, Jean, is working with your group. We're having a community celebration on Sunday where the women of Fonfrede were going to be invited to come and have a little program and eat. We're trying to figure out how to pay for solar panels. We did take off. I think we took off Saturday afternoon. We took off around 2:00. It was the first time we actually took off. And Dr. Papillon, you gave us a red letter tour of Lakai. We toured Lakai. We really hadn't done that in the time we had been there. We went down to the waterfront. We got to see the president and his entourage come through and hop on a boat. They were headed out to some island. That was wild and entertaining. We bought our necessary little gifts at the various shops. But anyhow, we took a little time. We took some time off, which was great. The next day we start by going to church, the Catholic church in town. And I think I may have been the only, well, Jean, you may be Catholic. I know I was translating for folks about what was going on, but it was a joyous celebration. It was an hour and a half long, which is a half hour longer than what I'm accustomed to. But holy cow, it was a joyous celebration. But then the women and lots of women show up at the capracare facility. The only problem, it's raining. Of all the days, it didn't rain the entire time that we were there, but it's raining that Sunday morning. So we're in your education room, which is probably designed to seat 15, and there are 45 of us in
Who's in that room?
in that room. But you ask John, you all put on a program, and of course we're at your mercy because we're not understanding much of this. But you ask at the end if any of the women that we were getting ready after this event, we were getting on a van to go back to Port-au-Prince, did they have anything that they wanted to ask us or say to us? And this older woman stood up and said, I don't have anything to ask, but I got something to say. And then she followed one right after another. 8 women in all, a total of 8 women stood up and talked to us about sisters and mothers and daughters who had died from cervical cancer, and how they now had hope they would not, because we had come. And then asked that we not forget them.
That was a very powerful moment.
Changed my life. I don't know how you I don't know. I don't know how you walk away from that. I don't know how to walk away from that. And to this day, when I tell that story, when I think about that woman, and I have pictures of like 6 or 7 of them. I mean, it was amazing. So not only did we have an impact, and we're grateful for that, but the Haitian women and all of the capracare staff had a huge impact on us. That whatever stereotypes we may have had, they were gone. The Haitian people are some of the most joyous, gracious, and resourceful people I have ever met in my entire life. And what a privilege. What a privilege it was to have spent that week in Fonfrede.
And that's why it was so meaningful not to stop. And the word stop never got to our head. You know?
Right. Well, and to that point, we make our way home, and you all go through the business of jumping hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, trying to make this work, discovering relatively quickly, I think, Dr. Papillon, that in order to really serve the women of Haiti, there is a group that can actually walk to the clinic, but that number is pretty limited. The truth of the matter is, in order to really serve the women of Haiti, you all need to go to them. They would show up at the outreach, but if they had to figure out how to make it to the clinic, that didn't work. So you all started using whatever you could find to put your equipment on in order to go out to the women. And I know that you have you probably have 12. We have time for one of your best stories about how you managed to make those trips.
So how we manage it, we had one of our friend, we had a Jeep truck. we use it because I guess the one story I like to read is the one that we had to go to Saint Jean district. So we have to go there, but on the road, I think the car broke down. So it was only me and that guy's name Amos. That I think it was only both of us that knowing something mechanic that and try to fix the Jeep so to go there. So I had to take up my scrub, lay under the Jeep like I was in my shop trying to connect it. But fortunately, we got to Saint when we aspect to our father there that we would give us that a little clinic. So at the same time we have they have the OB/GYN, we have to see pregnant women too. So we have to find our way. We have to go back in the church to go back in the little room. They have to put two tables together to put some drop on it, like to lay down the patient to do the job. But at the end of the day, I think I've been after education and people willing to screen. I think I made for 25 women. But the other part, I said that I know you want it, but you have to come to our office because I didn't have back at all because I couldn't really sit on a chair. I have to bend my knees. It was a lot.
Well, I know, well, I also know you used a dump truck. You used there are stories about using a dump truck and motorcycles, and anyhow, again, you all were heroic trying to do
Anything,
that.
yeah, anything we can find, we've done it. We go buy a motorcycle, dump truck, as you said. I remember one time we had to cross a river 2 times to get where we had to go to help those people, those women in particular. But even when we arrived in those areas, it was not only the women who came to for the education. Her husband, brothers, and even their son came to and asked if we are planning something for them as men too.
Mm.
And so that was the seed, and in a later episode, I think it's actually episode 6, that for our listening and viewing audience, you don't want to miss. So we'll be talking to the capracare staff, who in fact now have access to a mobile clinic. But it was your experience shortly after we left. I mean, we left in August of 2017. By 2018, John, you all knew that you needed a mobile clinic. You needed a mobile clinic. And so Muriel and I got to deliver the news to the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club. Yeah, we need to do another global grant in order for us to continue to serve. And what was amazing to us were the lives that you were saving. I mean, the numbers are coming in. The numbers are coming in, and the number of women that you were seeing that had lesions that you were able to save, as well as those that you were too late for. And we knew we couldn't stop, which may be a good place for us to stop today, though, because but for that week where somehow or another we all figured out how to make this work. Here we are in 2020, late 2023, 2024, and capracare is still doing it. They're still doing it, and I think the number of lives saved is up to 175. And Jean, we just need to repeat that number every opportunity we have, because that's no small deal. That's no small deal. Dr. Papillon, it was wonderful spending time with you again. We hope that you're doing well. Muriel, as always, it's wonderful to see and hear from you, those of us in the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club. Miss Muriel, she is in Sierra Leone now for a couple of years, and we are anxious to have you back. And of course, John, it's always fun to spend time with you. Our next episode, episode 5 of season 4, or season 3, is talking with Jim Grant, the executive director of Maison de Naissance, a birthing home in Torbec, 10 or 12 miles from Fonfrede, but serving a totally different group of women who by chance, literally, we found out about them, and we reached out to Jim, and he was trying to figure out how to do screenings in his birthing home, but they didn't have anybody who knew how, and they didn't have the funding. And so we introduced them to you, Jean. We brought everybody to Louisville, and we're going to tell that story on our next episode, where we just see how fate, chance, really has played a role in this great story.
Absolutely.
We hope that you will join us.
Let your fingerprints be a part of this success story. Log on to Capracare's website at www.capracare.org/changemakers, or go to the Prospect Goshen's Rotary Club website at www.pgrotary.net to donate today. Together we will save lives. You can also help Capracare's mission by subscribing to this podcast and leaving a rating and review. Thank you for growing our listening community.